All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Business of Speaking show. I am your host, Tim McDonald, and joined today by somebody I had the pleasure of connecting with and meeting when we both lived in the New York area, Shannon Hernandez. How you doing today, Shannon?
I am so good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, I'm so grateful for you to be here with us today. And for those watching, if it's your first time, the Business of Speaking show really doesn't focus on what speakers talk about on the stage, but it really focuses on their journey to the stage and what they've learned since they've been on the stage, and how they've been able to turn that into a business. So if you are thinking about getting involved in speaking, if you just started getting out in speaking, or anywhere along the line, because we all know this year has taught us no matter what we think we don't know everything because the world has a way of bringing up unexpected things that we never planned for. So anywhere along the path of being a speaker that you are, all of my guests have something that we can all learn from each other. And it's really about forming this community for speakers, by speakers, and for those interested in speaking. So with that being said, Shannon, I would love to hear your story of how you got started in speaking.
Yeah. So first, I think really my start in speaking was I was an eighth grade teacher. And I learned rather quickly because I taught in Harlem, New York City, that to get 30 plus inner city eighth graders to pay attention at all would be for me to become an engaging speaker and presenter, not a teacher. So I look back now, I've been out of the classroom, the traditional classroom for 7 years. And I look back and that experience was invaluable for me to really understand what it takes to capture people's attention and move them from whatever it is, point A to point B. And so when I came out of the classroom, I was sitting in my Brooklyn apartment, which was a 700 square foot apartment. And I had been kind of working behind the scenes on like copy and content and some strategy for people. And I realized, gosh, what's really missing here is I love to speak. I love to do training and I love to teach. And I thought, how can I do this? And I didn't know per se how to do that yet. But what I knew is I could open up my living room and I could offer a valuable piece of content for people or some way that they could build their business and ask people to come. And so that's really how I got my speaking career, if you will, is like this concept of like a living room or a lounge, inviting people in. I would hold an event once a month from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. And I would prepare a vegan lunch for them as well. And they would come and we'd talk about email marketing. We'd talk about blogging. We'd talk about marketing strategy. We'd talk about content personality. And wouldn't you know, first there were 3, then there were 4, then there were 6, then there were 10. Pretty soon I'm like, there's people sitting all over like this, all over the wooden floor. I bought cushions, so they had cushions to sit on. But it was so fulfilling because I was back doing what I wanted to do, which was speak and teach. And so that's really how I got my start.
Right? So your living room became your new classroom.
That's it right there.
Well, I love that. And it's kind of interesting because I've, I hear so many speakers give the advice of just go out and find somebody that will hire you to speak. You're, I think, the first one that just kind of created your own stage and invited people to it.
Yeah.
So,
And what I want to say, like, I'm so glad you said that, is because I think the world stage is actually your Zoom or your personal device, your phone. And I knew that very early on. Now, I didn't know that back then. I wasn't like, I don't even know if Zoom was around 7 years ago. I don't think that it was. So people were using Skype, and I have my own things about Skype. But anyway, they were like using whatever platform was available. And when Zoom came onto the scene, it changed the entire face of my business because I now knew I had a reliable platform to reach people, to speak, teach, train across the world, as long as they had an internet connection or access to a recording that was sent out afterwards. So that has been a game changer. And I think that a lot of speakers, new and old, many of them are coming to me for help during this time because they can't get onto a stage and speak. How do I transition to this online world? And your phone is like the answer to a lot of the questions that you're asking, if you can learn to embrace that.
I love that. Well, and I think I met you actually the first time, right? I don't know if you were probably still in the classroom, just getting ready to leave the classroom. I'm just kind of wondering what was it that kind of gave you the confidence that you could just leave, and I know you mentioned you were already working on something in the back, on your own time, about doing this, but what kind of gave you the confidence and knew that it was the right time for you to kind of make that jump from the classroom to doing your own thing?
Yeah. So Hurricane Sandy came through the area, if you remember, in 2012, I believe. And our schools were shut down because they needed to be used as shelters during that time. And I left that day. I left school that day. Now, this will give you some insight into my personality, but I was like, oh, the news, they're exaggerating. Like, it's not going to be that bad. Because they train us actually really well to think that. And I left, and I didn't take any papers. I didn't take anything with me. My lesson plan book, I'm like, oh, I'll be back tomorrow. We didn't go back for over a week, maybe 10 days. And it was during that time, Tim, that I was journaling. And I tear up every time I say this, but I was journaling. And on day 3, I looked back at that journal, and there was a line that said, I deserve to be happy again. And I knew at that moment something had to change. Now, I am happy teaching, but I was not happy with the school system. I was not happy with the testing. I was not happy with the politics. I didn't think any one teacher ever needs to have 30 some kids crammed into their classroom and see 90 kids a day. It's just not even realistic that that's setting anyone up for success in a school system. And so it was during that week that I really got very present to that line in my journal. And I said to my spouse, I said, I need to make a change, and I'm scared. So you asked about courage, and I can't say I had a lot of courage, but what I had was a drive to be happier. And that was the motivation. That was in October. I put my resignation in at the end of the school year in June, and I never looked back. I didn't look back at all. In fact, I was like, if I'm leaving, I'm leaving, and I will go create something. And during that time, I worked with a coach. I think that's how we may have been introduced, was Anastasia Bryce. And I worked with her, and she asked me some really foundational questions, like, what do you want to do? How do you want to be spending your time? What are you already good at? And that's when I started my journey as a copy and content writer, and eventually just realized I had a knack, a very good knack for marketing strategy. So that's kind of like the quick evolution of what happened there.
No, thank you. And so when you're in those early days, I know that it's sometimes very hard to see that there's going to be financial gain on the back end. What did you feel like, what was going through your mind as you during that first kind of 6 months, year, and what kind of stories do you have that maybe other people can relate to?
Yeah. So I had taught for 10 years in Charlotte, North Carolina. And when I left, so I had a 15-year teaching career, 10 years in Charlotte, last 5 in New York City. When I left Charlotte to start year 11 in New York City, I was getting paid $34,000 a year. And I was like, I can barely pay anything on the salary. And I was recently divorced at the time and starting my life over again, like we do when life change happens. And I moved to New York City, and my salary jumped to $60K. I almost doubled it just with that move. Now I know the cost of living is much higher in New York City. So, but I got a big increase is what I'm saying. By the time I left year 15, I was making $70,000. And so my goal was, okay, if I can make $70,000 in a year as a teacher, my first goal was, let me make $70,000 in a year as a business owner. And then it's kind of like the way I was rationalizing with myself. I would see that this was a success. And what happened was I don't know how to describe this now, except I think maybe I've done this millions of times over in other lifetimes because I'm really good at pricing and I'm really good at marketing and I'm really good at selling. I made $70K in the first 6 months. And I thought, wow, I could make $140K in a year, or I could take 6 months off. And so that was kind of like my first barometer. Did it come easy? No, I had to learn to sell. I had to learn to market. I had to learn to listen better to people and hear what they wanted and see if I could offer a solution. And over the course of that time, the money came. The problem, which is why I pivoted now into marketing strategy and not writing people's content and copy, is that I was on everyone else's deadlines. So, everyone waits the last minute to do their copy for their program or their landing page. And guess who that fell on? Shannon, please help, right? And I'm like, oh, I can't work like this. Like I do not work well with surprises and like really tight deadlines. So I pivoted out, but I had made a decision early on. I'm going to make money at this and I'm going to figure it out. And there are some things that I'm going to need some help with, and I'm willing to pay to get that help. And that, I think, has been a game changer all along this business journey for me.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you've, actually changed your business model.
Yes.
And I'm sure with that, it's kind of evolved even since then a little bit. So how do you know when it's kind of the right time to make those changes? How do you know when it's the right time to make pricing adjustments? Is there a secret formula to this, or what have you learned through that process?
Well, the very first thing, and really what I'm known for around the world, is joyful marketing, right? People come here when their marketing isn't joyful or things are working, but they want to have more joy. And so joyful marketing is like where it's at. And we have a mantra that we live by, and I live by, and it's very simple. If it ain't joyful, we ain't doing that shit. So any moment that something feels unjoyful to me, it can feel hard. It can feel stuck. These are some of the symptoms. It can feel like molasses because I'm like a fast creator. So I know if things are taking like it's drawing out and it's drawing out my energy, it's like not right for me. If it just feels uninspired, I don't have that expansive feeling, I stop and I ask myself, what needs to be either tweaked? Because sometimes it's one small tweak that can like keep the whole thing rolling. Or, wow, maybe it's time to like take half of this away, keep the half you love, and reinvent the other half. And that's really the place that I create from. And I'm not scared about that. And I think that's the key to being able to evolve your business and evolve the joy and the money. And as far as the money part, I sell out of one-on-one. I can't even tell you, Tim, it's like this mystery. It doesn't matter how much I raise the price. And I'm like, in my brain, I'm like, no one's going to buy this. And then the next quarter comes and I have 3 of these one-on-one to sell. And they're all gone in the first week of July. And I'm like, I'm going to raise the price again and I'm going to offer 3 more. They're all gone by the first week of August. And I'm like, isn't this interesting? No matter how much I raise the price, they continue to sell out. And that's really how I do pricing strategy, actually, is if I have this amount, it's like an inventory, and they're this amount and they sell out, I'm going to offer 3 more and see how far can I push that boundary.
Yeah, I've heard it from a couple of my past guests that until you start hearing no, you're not charging enough.
Right. Assuming you're good at sales. I think that's the caveat to that.
Yeah. Yes. So, looking at your business today, can you kind of explain the different components that, kind of contribute to your business as we look at it where it stands today?
Sure. So I have developed a group program because my one-on-one keeps selling out. So instead of me like overcrowding my schedule, one of my highest values is spaciousness, right? So like I don't like tight deadlines. I don't like really tight crammed in stuff. I'll take a certain number of one-on-one clients, and when those slots are full, if you have a consultation with me, we will offer you a group program if it's a fit. If it's not a fit, you go onto a wait list and we let you know when the next one-on-one slot is open. So that's pretty much my business model. Isn't that simple? And simple sells. As far as speaking, what we've kind of cracked the code on is I have a Facebook group. It's currently a free group. It's called Marketing and Selling for Coaches and Consultants. And we do a training every Tuesday in that group. I'm present in the group. I'm asking questions. I'm getting people to, it's a very engaged group. It's kind of like no other Facebook group around. And we built it that way intentionally. We intentionally built it that if you come into the group and you don't participate, you get taken out of the group. That's just the rule, right? Because nobody needs like dead energy in the group. So we've cultivated this love of conversation and asking each other questions and really getting down to what's working and what's not working in the marketing and in the selling for coaches and consultants. And I've used that as my platform to go live and teach. And we have what we call workshop weeks. So every 6 or 8 weeks or so, we're running a workshop in the group and we enroll people into either one-on-one or program from that workshop week. And it's really a beautiful model. We've had several 50K weeks. We've had not 50K weeks. The climate changed and we've had to make some pivots around what we're doing. But overall, the model, it feels really good. And the reason it feels good is because, one, I'm teaching, so that's my zone of genius. 2, we're using video, so it feels very much live, which a lot of us want as speakers. We love that kind of live engagement. And 3, we're just loving up on our people all week long and showing up and serving and answering questions and helping them and coming from a place of service first, sales second. And it has been a beautiful process for us.
Yeah. Now, one thing that I didn't hear you talk about, and I'm not sure if it's just because of where we are in the world today, or if it's been a pivot that you've made along the line, is you used to actually do some in-person retreats as well, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that something that you still would be doing if we didn't have the pandemic?
Oh, thanks for reminding me. We have 2 in-person retreats. We've had to switch it just a little with so I used to take about 15 to 20 people to Costa Rica once a year. Beautiful luxury retreat. And obviously right now we can't do that. So I tested something. I got a wild hair about May, and I'm like, screw this pandemic. I'm going to go on retreats and I'm going to travel. I'm going to do it my own way. I rented a beautiful Airbnb in Sedona for October and one in San Antonio, Texas for January. And they both sold out. Both retreats sold out within about 14 days of announcing them. And what that told me was, 1, people actually do want to travel. The right people are ready to go. And 2, I can still have this beautiful retreat experience in a spacious Airbnb without having to do overseas travel, flights, getting people to a foreign country or wherever, right? So I'm really excited. In fact, after this interview today, it's my day to focus on getting the correspondence out to people in Sedona and really getting them pumped about the theme. And I'm so glad that you reminded me of retreats, because we just did a small pivot to location and size. And that's really how we've navigated that right now.
No, wonderful. And I can't believe we're getting up on our time here. So, but one final question I would have before we kind of wrap up is, looking at where you're at now compared to when you first decided to leave teaching in the classroom, I should qualify because I know you still do that. What advice would you give yourself looking, with the knowledge you have now, going back to when you first made that decision?
Entrepreneurship has been the biggest spiritual journey and personal development journey. And I just wasn't expecting that. I don't know what I was expecting, but I was not expecting that. So the advice I would give myself looking back now is you better be prepared to do a lot of internal work to get seen as a leader, to lead a team. I have a team of 8, to be able to have a bad launch and come out of it. You know, you might be sad a little bit, but come out of it and pivot your message or pivot your offer and just know it's going to be okay. But you're going to have to do a lot of internal work to get to that place.
No, that's wonderful. Well, Shannon, thank you so much for joining us. How can people, find you online and get in touch with you if they want to, learn more about you or start working with you?
Yeah, you can visit my website. It's M as in Mary, shannonhernandez.com. You can also join us, beautiful Facebook group, Marketing and Selling for Coaches and Consultants. Those are the 2 main places that I kind of hang out online these days.
Well, fantastic. Well, I really do appreciate you being a guest and appreciate you for watching. And if it's your first time tuning in, you'll know that this time, or you won't know that this time of the show is when we sign off of YouTube. And I actually asked Shannon one additional question, and that content is exclusively available to our email subscribers at speaking.business. So if you just head over to speaking.business and sign up for our email list, you will get some exclusive content that's not available anywhere else. So thank you for watching. And Shannon, thank you once again for being part of this today.
Thank you.
Okay, done.